Somehow you've stumbled upon a Mercedes GLA 250 video. This CUV is adorned in refrigerator white. You may be in the market for something like this, like my girlfriend Latrice, whose OnlyFans page is blowing up. She just bought one herself and she was looking for something in the entry-level luxury segment. She didn't want to be bothered with a regular run-of-the-mill SUV like a RAV4 or a Mitsubishi Outlander. So what do we have here? We have a vehicle that is a little bit on the cuter side. You can do multiple packages to tart up the exterior with black wheels and blacked out accents, but overall this is a smaller proportion car, or CUV, which is great if you're a city dweller or urban dweller that doesn't need a ton of capacity. Now onto the interior space. The hatch is exactly what you expect. You can put a large variety of stuff, groceries or whatever, without having to fold down the rear seats. The back seat person capacity is pretty good as well. 2 full-size adults will fit back there, assuming the driver's not a humongoid and has their seat all the way back. Then your knees are going to be jammed up. But the comfort of the seats are a different story. At least in the driver position, there's not much bolstering on these seats, and they are extraordinarily flat. And not only that, they do not breathe well. In the heat of the summer, there's no cooling feature on here. I sweat constantly in them. They just feel very mass transit to me. But most of the other details in here in the fit and finish and ergonomics are quite sound. When you look at the door, for example, there's 2 types of leathers. It's very durable. The grain is good for taking some beating. The door handles, for example, have some alloy to them, and the handles, it's got a good contrast, including the stitching. And the door pockets are great for fitting like a full-size bottle. I mean, there's no issue there. There's no issue in the center armrest for putting things. There's a great slot for your phone, including a wireless charger. The armrest is quite good. And I think overall, the person that's going to be using this needs to put different things in different spots, and I haven't had any struggle with that, and that's pretty rare in modern cars. Now, in terms of other features, there's a few things that I would opt for. One is the Burmester upgraded audio, which is about $900. It's well worth it. The frequency response is quite flat, or more flat, I should say, and the tonal quality is more neutral. So it's not treble heavy or not bass heavy, and you can kind of tweak it to your liking, but if you listen to a lot of music and you're in a commute, you're going to appreciate it. So spring for it. The other thing that Mercedes does well is their ambient lighting package, where you can change the colors of the lighting, and the interior ambience at night is a great feature to have because you can adjust it to your mood. If you want to be calm, you can change it to something like blue. If you're pissed off, you can change it to red or just turn it off. It is quite nice. Now, there are some gimmicky materials like the black in the high traffic areas, but they don't overdo it there. And then the big selling feature is what everybody's pushing, is the infotainment and technology. If you opt for this bigger screens, it's kind of threaded so it looks like one screen. It's touch on the screen. There's touch on the steering wheel, like old BlackBerry style controls, and then the touchpad down below. And it is so convoluted. And I'm not kidding you. Like things like adjusting the track, like for your music, you have to be in the right menu to adjust it on the steering wheel. You have to be on the right menu on the center screen. And then you can change it on the touchpad by swiping left or right, or you can bring up the assistant. But all of this is not a replacement for just having a simple physical control on the steering wheel. It's like little things like that that just grate on my nerves driving this. And you'll see once you get in here and use it, it's one of those where, holy Christ, I just have to get it right and then never touch it again because there's just so much going on here. But again, it's probably something you're going to get over. But let's head into the shop and talk about some of the technical things they tried to do with this car before we take it for a drive. Underneath the Mercedes GLA 250 with all-wheel drive. I don't want to take up too much of your time, but I want to talk a little bit about what they were trying to do with this. Now, you know this is an entry-level product for them. At $36,000 to start, that's pretty much crossing over into some of the more economy segments, things from Toyota, even Hyundai and Kia. So they had to do something to separate this from some of the other brands. So what they did is essentially took a hatchback design and put it on stilts. They raised it up to give that CUV style because most of the demographic wants that lifted look and that better road presence. So that's important. But by lifting it up, you create more drag and having this breadbox shape. So it introduces more road noise, more wind noise, and turbulence. So they're trying to control that. They still wanted to give you that luxury car feel, even though the price was lower. So the way that they did that is their approximation from wind tunnel testing is 20% of the drag that's created is from not having proper underpanels, like underpaneling like this, or engine covers or underhood covers, because what that does is it creates lift and it creates drag. So they've covered the entire part of the underbody, and they've done it in strategic locations as well to keep road noise down and all the other things that you associate with a more peasant-like ride. So they've controlled that well. The other thing that they've done is they've added aluminum in strategic places, like the lower control arms, the knuckles for unsprung mass, but everything else is steel. About 70% of this body is steel, high-strength steels. And again, it's at that price point where they're not going to have all the high-end composites and aluminum subframes and all that. But again, underbody coatings on the steel is great for this vehicle. And the all-wheel drive system is tuned a little bit differently here than some of the more economy, the on-demand economy products. And of course, you have an 8-speed dual clutch to go with the 2-liter turbo, which I'll talk about that a little bit in driving. But again, the main thing was reducing road noise, making you feel more isolated, and keeping the ride control good and within limits. So let's see how that does on the road. Well, luckily, Latrice brought me along to Autobahn Country Club with her newfound membership. She's out racing her radical SR10 that her OnlyFans fan bought her, and she threw me the keys to the GLA 250 to run around on track, which, get this thing off, oh yeah. So what do you want to know? You know you're not taking the GLA 250 to the track. So what are you going to do with it? You're going to cruise it around. The big thing for me driving this is I have enjoyed almost every second of it. When you forget about the electronics and you're just spending your time behind the wheel, the model I'm driving right now has the adaptive dampers, which means you can go different drive modes. Comfort versus sport affects the way that it handles. Comfort is like a cloud. It's great. And when you look at it for $40,000, it's exactly how a luxury CUV should handle. It just glides easily over everything. But just joking around, obviously, I never intended to take this to the track, and that's not a track drive. But I can go out here freely and just kind of see how it manages itself in sport mode. You have a dual clutch. The thing, like some of these Mercedes cars with their all-wheel drive systems and the transmission is remarkably good here. I mean, it feels way more nimble than you would expect this thing on stilts to be. The transmission's super responsive. It does have a little of that dual clutch stutter from a start, but when you're in automatic mode, you never notice any clunkiness. It's super quick. It's enjoyable to drive. Even the 4-cylinder, the way that it's tuned, there's no perceivable lag. It just is very quick all the way from the bottom to the top end. There's no fake engine noise. There's no crap. It's just, unlike the technology that's overbearing, the driving experience is completely seamless, and that's what I'm trying to say. It's a good combination of 4-cylinder, dual clutch technology, and with the adaptive dampers, this thing moves out way quicker than anybody in their right would drive it on the street. But it gives you so much confidence to know that when you're just putting around on the road, you can be comfortable. And then if you decide you're in a fit of rage and you want to drive it like a dick, you can. And the all-wheel drive system works really well to not turn this into some like understeer fest like some of the economy cars from like Hyundai and Kia and Toyota. But I think with that said, let's get into the final thoughts. And we're going to talk more about what makes this good and bad. Final thoughts on the Mercedes GLA 250. While this is not the car for me, I've tried to give it a fair shake to talk about the good and the bad and who it's for. So here it goes. The compact crossover segment is a dime a dozen. Every single manufacturer has to have one, whether they need it or not, because this is what's selling right now. In the case of the GLA, you may look at it and be like, okay, it's just a badge. And really, that's not true. When you drive this on the road, it's super comfortable. The handling, the dynamics, the drivetrain are all really balanced. And surprisingly, when you hustle it around, it's not horrible. And I think you combine some of the tech features, like the safety suite works quite well. Some of the interior technology, like I talked about with the Burmester and the ambient lighting, it's a great package. It's for somebody that might be a little bit younger, doesn't have a full-blown budget to go nuts. That's a $60,000 luxury car. You're getting a lot here for that money, and Granted, you're going to lease this. This is a very here and now car with the technology. It's something you're like, okay, this is cool, like the XC40 or some of the BMW products. You're gonna buy it for a couple years and you're gonna dump it when the next hot thing comes out. And that's the way I feel about it. It's not completely disposable because it does so many things well, but I think really overall, you're looking at this and you're like, I like it today. And that's the way that I feel about it. And I'm probably gonna hate it in 3 years, but for today, it's definitely something to look at if you're into this segment. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.